Question 3. Why do you think the crossover took place between metal and punk? Was it just a musical crossover, or it turned out to be a crossover between the youth cultures of punks and metalheads? Well, a little bit of both, but I would say that it was kind of a natural crossover and combination from, like I was saying before, I mean, bands like Motorhead, Iron Maiden, Holocaust, Angel Witch, Celtic Frost, Hellhammer. I think there was a lot of bands, Venom, that fed off punk rock too back then. I mean, they shared the same influences together. I don't think there was really a conscious time when, maybe a band was like, oh, we want to sound, like metal punk or something, and that band probably sucks. Whoever that is, in my opinion. I don't know. But, I think it was just a gradual progression. I think that makes sense when you look at a band like Metallica. So by 1981, there's a metal band consciously, or more consciously, talking about, being into a lot of old punk rock, and it being part of what influences their sound. And then you get up to like 87, 88 when Subvert, became a band. And we loved metal. Like I was saying, at least a couple of us loved metal, all the metal that was coming out, speed metal. I mean, I listened to a lot of Slayer, Voivod, Crumbsuckers, Holy Terror, RKL, but RKL, even Rock and Roll Nightmare isn't really as much metal, but that album influenced us a lot, for sure. So, it's just kind of all over the place, including, like, Black Sabbath, and, like, Mark Brown used to listen to Neil Young all the time, Eric listened to, he loved, The Clash, and a band called Concrete Socks, and Conflict. So, yeah, I think it is a legitimate label, like crossover punk metal. It's just over the years, it's kind of like grunge, in a sense. But at that time, even in the 87, 88, 80, whatever, the word crossover, the only thing that made me think of was that DRI album called Crossover. Like, I remember calling, alternative metal. That's what I was calling, music that was like punk metal sound or whatever. Anyway, okay. So, question 4. Do you remember the reaction of punks and metalheads in this crossover? Again, it's kind of like, also I want to say, let's see, I might be answering another question. At least in Tacoma and Seattle, punks and metalheads were kind of just in the same. There's some friends I had that listened to more speed metal only, but at least like the metalhead friends that I had used to come see us play all the time. When there was really a division, it would have been the early 80s, and I would have called them rockers, because when I was first a punk rock kid in Tacoma, I used to get picked on and chased and stuff, and my spiked wristband got stolen, and somebody stole my Iron Maiden pin, in like 1984 or whatever, and it was a rocker kid. And they weren't as much metal, I wouldn't put them as metalheads. They were just dicks. They thought that we were, they didn't know what punk rock was, I mean, that's when the split really happened, when you can split up punks and metalheads or something. It's like when the metalheads don't understand punk rock. At least in Tacoma and Seattle, I think I mean, at least by like the later 80s, like I'm talking about, everybody went and saw, like, there wasn't that many crossover bands though, that would be in the realm that I think you're really pointing at, is like the Accused and Subvert. Back then, a band like Poison Idea would have went into that notch a little bit, but there wasn't many bands doing the level that Accused and Subvert were doing at all up here, a couple other kind of metalish punk bands would play once in a while, but for the term crossover, there wasn't that many bands. There was a band called, I think, Attitude Adjustment from the Bay Area. And you have like a band like Neurosis, which it was a band that we played with, and I mean, there was bands that were kind of what we were doing. I think we were like just that Motorhead influence again with crossover. The more I thought about my answers last night, I have to just push the point: Motorhead. I mean, Ace of Spades was such a phenomenally just inspirational, album, inspiring album to punks and metalheads, that love that album. It's like, at that point when I started hearing punk rock, and myself and my brother in like 81, it reminded us of Motorhead in a way. It was like fast, but it wasn't as technical. So I really got to push that point, and there are very specific albums that changed things. I mean, just no doubt about it. Helped open minds. Even like a band like I was going to say like the Bad Brains, Rock for Light. There's albums that just open your mind to more music, depending on what you're already listening to. But there was a metalhead scene in Tacoma that they're always really open-minded of, like, I was in another band called Machine, which was, we weren't as fast at all, but we were like punk metal, too. And I've had a lot of friends tell me over the years how much Machine inspired them to like step out of the regular like metal that they were into, like more like the 70s metal, like growing up listening to just Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin and and Aerosmith, Deep Purple, and then somebody inspires you to like listen to step out of that and listen to something else, So I've had some friends tell me that, and that would have been like still pretty early, like 81, 82. I mean, I was young, but I was listening to like, myself and my brother were listening to all kinds of early metal and punk by the time I was 11, 12 years old. He was like 15, we were spending all of our money on records, and trying to get anybody that would listen, to the records we had. Anyway, okay, there you go. That's 3 and 4. Okay, thanks.